That's on the way. But right now, you are listening to BBC Radio London, 11:42. Kath in the chair for Eddie. Let's talk this, shall we? Any excuse, really. I'm sorry if that has now set your your pets at home are probably going crazy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, stroke not sorry. Why have I played that? Well, I have a question for you. Is it more acceptable to be a pet parent than a child parent? Are pet parents more celebrated than human parents in our society right now? Well, Nell Frizzell has written an amazing piece for The Guardian today. Definitely caught our attention. I'm just going to read you a short extract. We're tearing ourselves apart with self-deprecation, self-doubt, guilt and anxiety, while cat and dog owners particularly are just out there indulged and celebrated in their adoration of their furry dependents, buying dog-friendly ice cream, setting up Instagram accounts for their Bengal cat, employing the pet psychologist because their dog keeps eating out of the bathroom bin, getting kangaroo meat imported from Australia because regular beef upsets their pet's tummy. What a quote that is. Well, Nell, author of said piece, and books on parenting, joins us now alongside friend of this particular radio station, Anna Webb, dog behaviourist and nutritionist. I'm going to say hello to both of them. Hello, Nell. How are you, dear heart?
I'm good. How are you? Lovely to hear from you.
Very, very well. And Anna, gorgeous woman. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me on.
Now, listen, let's make this clear. This is not one of those ding-dongs. The two of you kind of will probably agree. But I'm
no cat fighting.
No cat fighting. No cat fighting. But I'm going to start with you, Nell, if that's all right. Can you tell us what drew you to write this piece?
Well, actually, there's a whole chapter in my book, which is about early parenting, where I set up this kind of comparison, I suppose, between the way we treat people with pets or pets themselves and the way we treat parents and babies. And I sort of say that there's a jokey side to this, which is people just seem to find cats and dogs on social media so much more interesting and adorable and cute. And they find people talking about their babies a little bit tiresome. But then there's also the serious side, which is I've worked in, I think, 4 different places where you could there was an office dog or you could bring your pet to work. And I've never worked anywhere that had like a creche or childcare on site. I have been told that I've known people who have been refused flexible working but have been allowed to take time off because their cat was ill. I've known people who allow dogs but not babies at weddings. And I just sort of think maybe I'm bitter, maybe I'm a little bit oversensitive. But when my son was small, it really felt like having a cat or a dog who depended on you was more socially acceptable than having a human, a real life person. And maybe that's because pets are just easier to love than people. My granddad was a vet. I know that loving an animal comes quite easily because they don't challenge you. They don't grow up. They don't get a terrible boyfriend. They don't steal your record collection. And so they're just sort of these fluffy, fairly placid, fairly easy to ignore kind of, I'd say, furniture that you feed to some extent. And then if you really, really don't like them or don't get on, you can give them away without too much social stigma.
Wow, there's a lot that you've laid down there. I'm going to get reaction from Anna. Anna, what can you say in reply to Nell's, I think, quite well argued point?
Right. Well, I, must just, lay my cards on the table. I know, Nell, you're blessed to have had children. I made the conscious decision for lots of reasons not to have a child. One being, climate change. Another being my deep love of dogs, which I've had all my life. What I would say to you, dogs do need our emotional support, our physical care, and our psychological support through their lives. They're certainly not furniture. Dogs do go through their life stages. They're very difficult, like babies, I'm sure. When they're puppies, they have to be trained. What we're seeing at the moment is a lot of people aren't doing the right socialization through the pandemic. A lot of people were hindered. We couldn't go anywhere. So we've now got this generation of dogs that's being talked about all the time that isn't trained, isn't socialized. Dogs don't have recalls in the park. They are arguably causing a few problems for people who maybe just simply don't like dogs, and they may go running up to people and their owners can't get them to recall. So there's a lot going on in the world of dogs at the moment, but undeniably we cannot deny that we have evolved alongside dogs epigenetically for over 30,000 years. To highlight my point, there's an amazing art collection that opened on Sunday at the Wallace Collection in Manchester Square, which celebrates this, our relationship with dogs, actually for a 300-year period. And dogs are billed in that exhibition as this: dogs are on the threshold of being human, yet border being in the animal kingdom. So that is a quote that highlights what a lot of people like myself actually do think. So clearly, Nell, I have to disagree with you on everything you have actually just said. And in your article, you do talk about things like fun treat tossing technology. But may I say that in an economic meltdown, which it appears the world is going through at the moment, we can rely on the hound pound to help boost the economy, where perhaps in the future, looking at statistics on Generation Z, who are actually thinking about delaying having children, maybe not having children at all, maybe prioritizing their career. I think, we need something that could, make up for the fact that less children's products could be marketed on a global scale.
Anna, I'm gonna let Nell, of course, come back in a second, but I think you might have just argued to agree with Nell, because all of those things you've said are great reasons why, as a country, we adore our pets, in particular our cats and dogs. We just absolutely love them. Maybe a little bit more than we love families with children. I just think we're all, I mean, pets are pure of heart in so many ways. And sometimes children can be snotty and annoying. Nell, is that kind of where you're going with this?
Yeah, I think there's no surprise that the Royal Society for the Protection of Children, well, the NSPCC, was set up, I think it's 60 years after the Royal Society for the Protection of Animals. And I think that speaks so deeply to the kind of the British mindset that we find it easier to love pets, and therefore we find it easier to kind of privilege pets. And we find, like you're saying, babies and small children are annoying, but they are also the future of the nation. And I think, of course, you can draw parallels between raising a pet and raising a child, but it's nothing like, raising a pet is a very sort of temporary turbo version of that. Yes, they have difficult stages, but they last a couple of months, a year, and you're not going to, it's not the kind of lifelong investment that having a child is.
Yes.
I have to say, I did grow up with pets. I'm not completely hard-hearted to it, but I think I just balk at the way that we look at, things like cruelty to pets, and the way that we sort of talk about animals as if they are these completely, I don't know, like that there is an equity there with people, and I just don't see the equity.
And again, I don't think I could ever get you and Anna to see eye to eye on that statement, but I do think, Anna, it's worth us saying that there is a reason that you love dogs. You have an incredible affinity and an incredible knowledge of how to train, how to work with, and how to make this incredible relationship, Anna. So again, I don't know if you disagree. I just think you both agree in a weird way. You understand the joy of pets, Anna.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think, to be fair, I think you need to have a heart of steel, really, to take on a dog, because the inevitability is this: the dog will die before, comparatively with a child. So, arguably, you could say you are being quite selfless in taking on a pet, because you know that your heart is going to be broken. And the reason that is because you're right. I agree with Nell there, in terms of difficult children and all the rest of it. Animals can be very, very difficult. Animals are complicated. They're not easy. They're not just all fluffy, sat on the chair all day, in a coma. They need interaction and all of that. But ultimately, I think, pet owners do pay the ultimate sacrifice for, spending time and energy with their pets, bringing their best out of their pets. And it is this thing, I honestly believe that it is all animals, but for me, mainly the dog, that is the only creature on the planet that truly offers unconditional love. And I think that's why our heart is always broken. In the human sphere, everything is quid pro quo.
Okay, so again, Nell, I got to put this to you because, again, you've written about being a parent and talking about the early years and how tough they can be. The one thing I would say is I do see a lot of judgment. I mean, I don't want to make this just about mums, but I see mums get mum shamed the whole time. In fact, any tube journey with a very angry child or flight with an angry child for some very good reason, and no one gives the child a dirty look. They give the mum a dirty look. Are we really talking about the fact that this is parenting as opposed to children? Because I think we're not that hard-hearted as a nation.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's the way. It probably also speaks to my sort of age group, that I remember friends sort of complaining that their, let's say, social media feeds are just flooded with people's babies. But then if you scratch the surface, those people are posting 10 to 15 photos of their cat and or dog a day. They're referring to themselves as a fur parent. They're talking, about a fur baby. They're doing all the kind of things that if I did as a mother, I think I'd not be laughed at. I would be sort of taken to task, and I would be shamed for that kind of behaviour. So I think it is much probably speaking to my feeling of it just being more socially acceptable to vocally adore, cherish, and
dote
indulge
on your
pet.
pet. Yes, it is more. Okay, Anna, so I think you might agree with this. It's a little bit more acceptable to dote on your pet, on your dog, than it is to dote on your child publicly.
Maybe. I've never had to dote on a child publicly, so I don't know. I think it's great to celebrate your dog, and and I think as well we've got to understand how dogs can help us on a society level, like taking dogs into the office. It's scientifically proved that productivity in the office increases. Just having a dog in the room lowers everybody's blood pressure. So there's huge health benefits of dog ownership, which perhaps is why people do want to dote on them more. Dogs do relax you. Dogs do also stress you out. So it's a fine line argument, Nell. Look, I hear what you're saying. However, for me, I don't know if I had a toddler, I don't know if I would post pictures of him or her on Instagram. For loads of other reasons to do with social media, whereas you are safe to do that to a degree with your pet and communicate, your messages and whatever you want to do on social media. But I think social media is a whole nother subject, actually.
And Anna, do not stop posting pictures of your dogs on the internet, please. Do not. I am fully subscribed. Do not stop, okay? Nell, in terms of pieces like this, when you write them, you put your opinion out there. Yes, you can come in for a bit of criticism, but you're quite measured in this. You're not upset with pet owners. You're just wondering what is the state of play that parents get judged more harshly.
Yeah, I think when I chose to write the book, it's called Holding the Baby, and it was basically asking who is left holding the baby in our contemporary culture. And it really did feel to me in the early years of my son's life that I was sort of left to do it myself. We treat child rearing as a kind of private, domestic, personal lifestyle choice, and therefore it's nobody else's business to help you. And I found that so frustrating. And I was trying to just find different ways to make that argument. And I think the pet one is one to sort of say, we just don't treat parents of babies in the same way that we treat, quote unquote, parents of pets. And I think it was just another way to kind of try and bring to the surface this unfairness and injustice in the way that I think we're doing it, and to look outside of British culture and say, where are we doing this better? How could it be different? How could the future look if we put, the health and well-being of children and people first, above profit, above pets, above all those other productivity, everything else? If we just focused on the sort of health and future of humanity.
Yeah, well, again, we could probably talk about this all day, and I've got to leave it there. But thank you both for telling us about your thoughts and your perspective on it. Anna, we've dragged in, but Nell, you've written this brilliant piece. Remind us about your book, Nell.
It's called Holding the Baby, and it's out now. Thanks, Kath.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. And I absolutely love reading your perspective, and I keep doing it. We don't always have to agree, but I love reading it. Thank you so much. Anna, my darling, I know where people can find you, but just in case they don't know, tell us.
Well, you can catch me on social media at Anna Webb Dogs.
And on a Sunday,
Oh, on the Barking Hour, of course, every Sunday, 3 till 4 with Joe Good on BBC Radio London. And you can tune into my podcast called A Dog's Life.
Thank you. All of that, Anna. And thank you so much for contributing to this too. Nell Frizzell, wonderful author and journalist, and Anna Webb joining us there, dog behaviourist, nutritionist and friend of the radio station.